This is a meeting of the Consolidated Commission on Utilities for both GPA and GWA. And for the record, those present are myself, Commissioner Chaco, Commissioner Sanchez, Commissioner Santos, and Commissioner Guthert. So everybody's present. And we'll go first to approval of the minutes. A second? Second. No further questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. Nay opposed. Motion is approved unanimously. We're going to go to Miguel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have no updates to the GM report except for the workforce availability, which was not included in the work session.
Okay.
So real quickly, just want to point out that as of October 9th, we are at 95.2% healthy, with a total of 359 out of 377 employees available and reporting for duty.
Very good. Yeah, I'm surprised we really have less people affected by COVID. I look here from the board and everywhere, and people are getting a lot of cases. I'm glad you guys are doing good. Okay. Thank you. What else?
We have two resolutions for your consideration. First one is Resolution 01 FY 2021, and this is seeking your approval for the memorandum of agreement between the Department of Public Works and GWA regarding permanent road repairs following our work on our infrastructure. As you recall, we've been working on this for quite some time. We had set out a timeline for us to present this for approval. We were been waiting on DPW to provide us unit cost information for what we would agree to pay for them to perform pavement repairs either through their contractor or through DPW in-house personnel. We have still not received those costs, but we have worked out essentially all the other items on the MOA. So we're presenting it for approval subject to our determination of fair and reasonable costs for unit cost for pavement repair. As I mentioned in the work session, DPW is working on a IDIQ contract, I believe, which will be competitively procured for their contracted pavement repair services. So we are anticipating that those straight pass and whatever the bid prices are is what we pay. And then if it's W's personnel, it would be just straight labor and equipment costs, whatever administrative.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Yes, Miguel, thank you. Just from your experience with all that we've been doing, do you have a guesstimate of rough dollar figure? I know you don't have the specifics per unit, but just from all the years you've been running so many projects, for road repair, I know it's kind of a big question. I think it might 5 million on road repair in a particular, 1 million. How do you budget, at least conceptually in your own mind, if nothing else, right? Just from a planning point of view.
So I think with the small purchases, we've been not in the order of millions per year. One year, I think, private contracted services. Keeping in mind that we're not doing all of the repairs that way. Prioritize the high traffic areas stated for what our actual cost should be if we're doing it the right way, but it's in that order.
Okay, all right, great. I mean, at least it seems like your goal is to try to get, with regards to DPW, kind of a consistency, because they're ultimately doing more roads than any of us, right? DPW. So to the degree we dovetail into their work, their standard, and we just help pay their contractor. And I notice we've had trouble securing our own contractor, probably because the miles of roads we do are much smaller than DPW's, whereas DPW can get a contractor because there's more work to do. They will then fold in work that might be required for our, construction that we may cause a road damage. And they would take the contractor that they've already vetted, who knows the standard for the road, and fix an area that we might have impacted. And your initial guesstimate, and I'm sure you'll document it as we go along, is in the low couple of $100,000, but it's probably going to be better quality or at least more consistent.
Yes.
And that's why you pursued it with DPW.
Right, and we want to pursue it, as I mentioned in the work session, as one option. We will continue to try and procure our own
Okay.
IDIQ contractor. So we have multiple options for repair in order to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Does it need a motion
It
to
needs a
approve?
motion, is there?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like, oh, okay, well, okay. I move to approve Resolution 01 FY 2021 relative to approving a memorandum between DPW and GWA for permanent road repair following GWA emergency repairs.
Any further discussion? We discussed this at the working session? Nope. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimous. Next, Miguel.
Mr. Chair, the next resolution is 02 FY 2021, and this is seeking your approval for a change order for the Route 4 Relief Sewer Line Rehabilitation and Replacement Project. The one that I've been updating you on frequently. The last remaining work was the manhole at the intersection of Route 4 and Route 1. All during the work session, I indicated that this change order request is necessary because that little bit of work was the final remaining portion to finish this project out. And the design drawings did not capture the condition, that condition at the manhole, so it was a change. Concrete then was in order to complete the work. Price proposal for the change order was $38,000. The team negotiated it down to $30,000, so we're seeking your approval for additional $30,000 for this change order, which.
Yep. 884.
And, okay. Motion?
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman, Resolution 02 FY 2021 relative to a change order for the Route 4 Relief Sewer Line Rehab and Replacement Construction Contract with Pro Pacific Builder Corp., adding an extra $38,000 to our $3.884 million project.
Second. Any further discussion? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimous. And Miguel, what else do you have? Anything else? Okay. Thank you very much. Any questions for our GPWA? No. Okay. Thank you. Okay, John.
Well,
You can run for the legislature.
Thanks, Miguel.
Okay, thank you. Okay. John, you're up to bat. Yes? Huh? Sure.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Yeah. But at this time, I'm just going to table it and take a look at it in November.
Okay.
So, so Mr. Chair, I do have two resolutions tonight. I would like to go through that first, if it's okay with Commission. The first one is Resolution 2020-20, and that's asking your request for an amendment to increasing the engineering, procurement, and construction management contract for Stanley up through March 2022. The contract with Stanley is a 5-year contract, started in 2017, and it expires in 2022. Again, they've been through the process of helping us prepare the bid specifications, evaluating bidders, helping us go through the short. Remember, it's been a whole process. It's almost been 3 years since we have had them on board, and including help with land purchases, noise studies, and now historical preservation. So a lot of different aspects that they've been helping sport to get through and the new park plan. So the authorization received so far for the EPCM was about 3.75 million, and what we have to expenditures to date is 3 million. So we have about 726,000 left, which will bring us at the rate of expenditure. The average billing per month before was around 73. Now with all the activities going on, is up to 130, average of 131,000. So that money should bring us into January. So really, the balance of 2.25 million that I'm requesting brings us all the way up to March of 2022. And it's really a combination of everything from the constant review of the contract and the permitting process, construction management aspects of it. And because their power plan won't be completed by the time their contract is up, we will be going out for a new for the RFP for an EPCM around August of next year. So this is, so this would be just the balance, and if we need the new EPCM beyond March 22, whether, of course, they can join the RFP also again, but no that. So again, there's still a lot of work to be done, most especially now. The five major categories that we're working that requires a lot of attention, of course, are air permitting, biological resources, cultural resources approval, like historical preservation, environmental impact approval that covers about 20 or so agencies that we need to get their approval, that KEPCO needs to get their approval on, and we have to constantly stay on top of that, and that they do so. And additional other pre-construction permits, clearing and grading all the different scenarios. Each in its own has its difficulties during this period of COVID-19, so they are having weekly meetings to work on this. And as I mentioned last meeting, the major significant aspect of this is whether it's a major source permit versus a minor source permit. That process, I hope, will get resolved over the next 3 months. One, KEPCO is going down the path of a major source, and we are working with them on an alternative to that to get them back on minor source and get this power plant built as quickly as possible, because major source will extend the time substantially. And so, I provided a lot of information, Mr. Chair, on the thing. I'm not sure you want me to go through all of that, but basically that's what we're asking here is an increase for 2.25 million.
Yeah.
So the total comes out to about 6 million, which is on a $600 million contract. it's about 1%, and something like this is in the neighborhood of about 1 to 3%. So we're still, way in line with the
Okay,
process.
we went through it at the work session, but
yeah.
we had two members who were not present, Commissioner Sanchez and Commissioner Santos. Do you have any questions at this time? So give you an opportunity.
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've had a chance to review it.
Okay.
I'm quite familiar with the process. Stanley Consultants has been with us through. It's very detailed in the agenda and in the resolution. And having an EPCM with specific expertise to assist us and assist our partner, KEPCO, in complying with their bid is critical. And we're going to be needing that assistance through March 2022. And then John said that at that point there might be another opportunity for Stanley or other bidders to continue the work as we build that plan. So I'm familiar with the whole process.
So if there's is there a motion to approve this?
I
So
second.
moved.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Sanchez. If there's no further discussion, are you ready for the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimous. Okay.
Thank you,
John,
Mr.
have-
Chair.
What's your next?
Resolution 2020-22, and this is related to authorizing us to continue the Armed Uniform Security Services. Again, this contract, let me see, expires actually in the, sorry, let me put this in there. This contract was approved on June 5th, 2019, and it was approved for $1.2 million budget. And of course, the 1.2 million is below the 1.5 threshold of the PUC, so we did not go to the PUC then. However, also our intention was to go through the process. If you recall, we were going to Homeland Security, other areas, trying to put together a physical and cybersecurity program for GPA, both GPWA. Both Miguel and I are working on the process to make sure physical security and all the assets, including water wells and wastewater. So we did award a pilot project, a pilot for that to determine in so many assets what would be the model for all the others, and that's in the process today. However, again, we would still need to continue armed services, and if you look at the appendix here, the number, the total. This is a 3-year. This is a 3-year contract. If you took all the options, we really had the base and then several options. It will be $3.6 million. You approve 1.2, and then our projected expenditure through October 31st will be 1.158. So the funding for the remainder of the first year renewable, which is actually the second year of the contract, is another 818. And then for the whole period, we will require for the second renewal period, we require 1.228 million. So the total funding for the 3-year period will be authorized will be 2 million. So although we went in, we had a bid for 3.6 million. We actually adjusted as necessary and utilized only what we needed. And we anticipate now that the total 3-year contract for security will be 2.046, and that is the request we're asking for your authorization. And because it exceeds the 1.5, we will go to the PUC for their approval. And again, the next phase is really the upgrade, from the physical security, what kind of lights, what kind of locks, what kind of CCTV, all of that is going to determine, because we do have the capital, do have the CIP funds for it, but we have to make sure that we have the model. So both power and water have a bid out, we have a contract now to determine what that is so that we can proceed on that basis. So it's really, I'd like to know that it's really not optional years, it's really options. There's a basic, and then option, if we had them do this, do that, we add from here. And so we just pick what we needed from the other options. So instead of the total 3.6, we're coming in with 2.04.
Okay. There's any question?
So JB, what was the rationale behind which options you selected? Have you been seeing certain impacts on either vandalism or theft that you've decided, okay, you need to exercise these different options on the security contract, or?
Yeah.
But the options include rovers. It includes some things as we unveil more of our physical security plan. Options is to maintain the command center, for instance, that is in the process right now. If we put a visitor security kiosk down at Fadian or any of the lobbies, it includes the options for that. We're able to have a lot of flexibility with this current contract. So as the GM had said, when we award the proof of concept for the physical security for both, this allows us that option to flex up or flex down.
Good. So it's like an indefinite quantity type of scenario, as they need more rovers or whatever, or location, like we added, I think, a Greco at some point for some reason, but no point. That gave us, so that was the concept of it. And again, we were trying to cut back until we get the model, and we were hoping we were further along into really getting the physical security portion of it. And but that so.
Is there a motion to approve this? So move. Second. Any further discussion? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimous.
NG.
Okay, John, what else? Are you done?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just want to if you give me just a few minutes on this NG. Sure. I'd like to at least brief the commission. Because again, if you recall, we were actually last year, the end of last year, I was going to bring this to the commission for an award. And then there was a protest, and so we had to go to the OPA. So it took from the end, I think around November 2019, all the way to now. The OPA ruled completely in GPA's favor. We waited last week and Monday. Hopefully there was no additional protest, no additional appeal. The party did appeal the Superior Court of Guam, and that's where it's at today. So I'm not sure yet. How long that process will be. I'll get back to you once I have a better idea.
John, while they're working, just a quick question. I want to make sure I understand. How many megawatts is phase 3?
Phase 3 went out as a 40 megawatt total, no? It was meant to put 20 megawatts in Naval Station and 20 megawatts in NCS in Gajan. But it really depends on on what the proponent can fit into the property. The most important part of the whole process was that because there's the transmission lines coming into the facility, and you always want two lines, no? One going in, one going north and one going south or whatever, so that if one line fails,
You go the
you
other
can
way.
still carry all the power this way without melting the wires, no?
Okay.
So therefore, the limitation was set that the battery cannot be bigger than 30 megawatt. The battery, you can consider the battery similar to like your generator. It cannot put out more than 30 megawatts in one time, no? Like, you know, a diesel generator or whatever can run 24/7, right? Just keep on putting the gas. In a ESS, it depends how much you have in charge. So right here, right? What I'll show you here is that the NG was able to put in each side a 30 megawatt battery with 150 megawatt hour. So it means that you can run that facility 30 megawatts 5 hours continuously, or for 5 hours continuously, 15 megawatts for 10 hours continuously. So it depends on, there's like a
Your draw.
generator.
Depends on your
okay?
draw, yeah.
Just as long as that capacity. So that's what happened. You have a 30 down in Naval Station and 30. And so what is gonna, I'm getting ahead of myself in the presentation, but what that's gonna do is that, you know, your peak time, where you have all these expensive generators coming on the line to meet that peak, now you're just gonna use the 11 cents battery.
Right.
So what I'm gonna show you here
Load
is
shifting.
that the savings is really estimated.
So that's savings for ratepayers and less fuel
Yeah.
burning.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, we'll provide this to your board book. It's just hot off the press. I got motivated this afternoon to complete this. And if I go back to the first one, that's it, right? Okay. So this, Mr. Chair, it gives you an idea of the bid prices for the 20 years. And here's NG, and there's AES, and they have an alternate. Then you have Exilio, then Guide Path, Basic, an alternate, and then you have Capco here. And again, it gives you the 20-year prices. So even I have to look a little closer. NG's price is for the for Naval Base Guam. Again, this is for one base, right? Was 110.9, which is the equivalent of 11 cents a kilowatt hour. The next here is, again here, 16.9 for one, 16.1, 17, 19.6, 17.6, 29. Huh? So that gives you the huge difference, right? The same, again, all of these are 1% escalator because we set that at 1%. We don't want, okay, when you go to NCS Pinigajan, it's 10.8 cents or 10.9 cents, and again, it's the same thing, 15.8, 15.2, 17, 19, 17, and all of that. Now, we didn't put in the factor here of the local preference and all of that, but I think they need to look at that local preference scenario when it comes to renewables. Because that's a huge sum of money for a local preference that are investing. And the reason why I'm saying that, because there's other bills that are coming up. There's a bill now before the legislature I just sent you today about again, for the schools, local preferences getting so and so. I'm not sure that they realize that the local preference, I'm not against local preference, right? But you buy a material, 15% one-time scenario. But when you have 15% of a big number over 20 years, that's millions of dollars of
Ratepayers' money.
Yeah.
ratepayer or
Taxpayer,
money.
or ratepayer,
So they have to
taxpayer.
look at that, and hopefully they're listening. That's a scenario that's going to cost. If they're trying to reduce their costs, that's not the way to do it. Some preference, maybe some one-time shot. I'm not sure, but not the typical
Not the life of the
local preference.
contract.
So, sorry, Mr. Chair. So when you look at through this, and we compare the NG for both the two locations, we added them up together already, and you compare it against LEAC of 13.4, because this is what it was around that time, no? The total savings in 1 year for just this is 9 million for these two projects. Now, I'm saying that that's about another 50% more because you're using beakers. But again, on a simple basis, on the
You already
Reliet
have a savings.
is $9 million. Over the lifetime of the contract is $136 million savings, net present value. Next, here's the capacity. And again, when you talk about batteries, you always got to go, what is the power, like a generator size, and how much energy is it storing? So again, going to even residential, they say they have a 7 kilowatt hour, right? 4 kilowatt, which can power anything in the house, and the 7 kilowatt hours, that's only good for 2 hours if everything is powered. So again, this is the whole key here. And this is the amount of energy per year, 42 million. So 84 million kilowatt hour is going to be 11 cents, all of our total. No? Next, so what does that do? So here is 20 with a 250 megawatt. The average maybe around 245, but say around 250. Yeah? So you can see now that all of this, the yellow and the the yellowish color is all solar now. The blue is all conventional. So this now is about 25% of your energy, which actually when you see in my the latest calculation, 29% of the energy. Now, how do we get to 50%? We have the same thing. They're full. We don't allow them to put any more into the system. We just catch all of that and use that now to shave here and shave here. See? So now you keep putting down, and this will now be all yellow. So 50% in yellow, 50% in conventional. Now, the key here, the most important thing here is here. See this? We really cannot go much more down. So even the KEPCO contract and the Hanwha, later on we're going to look at maybe an opportunity to get batteries to make this straight, because when you go down here, especially when you have the Ukudu units, you're reducing your efficiency by lowering, no? So you want to stabilize this. Secondly, this is going to be about half load. They're going to be full load here, and then you're going to bring them down to half load. See? That's because solar without batteries is just dumping in the system. Now I say this because there's more bills coming out of unrestricted put all the schools into UG, GCC, and everybody. If they don't have batteries, this thing is going to keep going down. Higher cost for the system and higher unreliability. So they have to have batteries to be able to make sure. Because what are they doing? If you add more here, you're actually increasing the system cost and everything. So again, these are key points as to what this graph is telling us. No? The next. So here's your portfolio right here. When we get phase 3 done, we'll be about 29%. How do we get to 50%? About 120 to 180 megawatts more of phase 4. If you recall, the commission approved 60. The PUC asked us to come back and refile that with under the regular basis. So we're going to do that, and we're probably going to go out with the 120, 160, whatever. We'll bring that to you, if not November, most likely by January, and then we can proceed. But by doing what we did in phase 3 with the batteries, going out for 180 for utility scale, we're going to get to 50%. We can add all the other stuff, more rooftops, others in addition. That will help us continue to move forward. But the lower cheap cost energy will be what else we can do with the utility scale out there.
And John, would phase 4 always include storage?
Yes,
Right,
everything
right. So
will be
everything
like,
from this point forward is storage, right?
yeah, and everything,
Building-
the storage will be and load shifting, energy storage. The storage that Alma and KEPCO has, or what you call frequency, like the one we're putting in Talafofo, no? Make sure that the power is not coming in like this, it's coming in smooth. But it doesn't, it's not allowing you to, you can only shift maybe an hour or two of it, but not the long term, like phase 3 can.
Mhm.
So that's the model.
Commissioner Chaco's question.
So JB, is it unrealistic to put phase 1 and phase 2 on batteries? To help you achieve what you were saying, is trying to smooth out, getting that yellow curve starting a little bit earlier?
Yeah.
Is there,
So right now, the batteries we're having, trying to put on the line before the end of the year, will help that just stabilize the system, right? In
With the
terms,
existing
yeah.
solar.
But and you are correct. So one of the options later on is to, if you back up one, is to see this one a lot. Right now it's like this with the adjusted 25 megawatt, but when the 120 comes in, so one of the options is to eventually look whether we negotiate with them to add more batteries, or we can go out and buy our own battery for the system. Or have a battery IPP long term, it's big enough. So I prefer IPPs because of that, there's a big risk yet in
Yes.
the evolution of batteries. So yes, you can do that. And this is what I was thinking now with the commission passed a resolution which says, you, the homeowner, has to put in a battery or pay a fee. So by paying a fee, by having the utility put in the battery, it will be cheaper on everybody, really.
yeah.
Because I don't see, there's a lot of talk about distributed generation at the homes. That has some benefit, but I don't see it significantly helping the system. With us here, it's good to have GPA, get a battery that's enough to carry that. And you can actually, instead of charging it from the system, charge it from the conventional unit in the day if you don't have, anything in the daytime. So
Could you go back to the first cost table, the savings cost table, this one here?
yeah,
So can you walk through the assumptions on these savings numbers? Does this
Yeah.
assume that KEPCO's online in 3 years?
no, this
Or-
is just this is the current LEAC, yeah, and this is 13.4, which is today,
Oh, you're just doing the cost savings on
Yeah.
fuel avoidance?
yeah.
Oh,
This
okay.
is based on today, I'm sorry, today, or what it was in the December 2019 about, right? And so, versus the 11 cent. And then the other one here is, this is using a projection that was prepared by one of the consultants for ourselves,
But-
long term.
But does that assume when the more efficient plants come back
I don't
online?
think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
So the savings is
Yeah.
a little less, but not much.
Not much, yeah. Because here, we know already it's 11 cents, right? And this is going to offset, this one is going to offset the peakers.
Right.
This is going to offset a Greco later on. This is going to either a Greco or MEC 8 and 9. So that will still be
Versus the base load, the new base
Yeah.
load. Yeah, yeah.
so all the other 1 and 2,
So we're saving at the margin. Fuel mix, yeah.
1 and 2 base loads, the 8 and 9 today,
The base load's more efficient.
is being offset by the what you call it, ukudu, which will be around about 9 or 10 cents a kilowatt hour.
Right.
So your whole LEAC will be,
Mr. Santos.
yes. Meaning,
We want savings
yeah,
all the time, right? We want
yeah.
for the ratepayers, but when we start, our revenue starts to decline, where do you make that up?
Well, yeah.
I think the revenue, well, but the biggest revenue decline is in fuel.
Just fuel, yeah, so it's just
So
cost
we just don't
avoidance.
buy it. Yeah, like the new,
Nobody knows.
you just keep hammering down that LEAC, you know, the new generator saves 1 million barrels a year of fuel, right? All this new solar capacity doesn't use fuel, and we use battery storage, which is, think of it more like, at least battery storage is a fixed cost, like a mortgage, whereas fuel does this. So at least we know what we got, and then it's gonna just use less fuel.
The way it works for us, and we're fortunate that the customer side supplier agreement was set up that way, is that the military pays most of its about 95% of its fixed costs on a fixed cost basis. Only about, I have to get the number, I'll try and get it when it's on next time, about 5 or 10% is put into the energy component of their bill. So therefore, they're always paying their fixed costs. So everybody, and then all of this costs and savings here are put into the LEAC, not the base rate part, just the LEAC. So that's why everybody gets the same transmission level, which is Navy. They get this because, and they reduce, you know, after losses and all of that. So it's a one-to-one savings for us. Where it becomes a problem, I think where it's heading to is that if everybody else still get full retail rate, then there's less people now paying for the other debts. Because remember, here's the full debt. Navy pays 20%, say, right? The 80% is paid by everybody else. But then there's less customers contributing kilowatt hours because they're generating their own. Then the average cost per kilowatt is going to go up for those that are not part of the system. So that's the problem that we're trying to avoid. No?
So one thing I like about our strategy is actually, I mean, look what's happening now. We're hardly having any NEM customers. So this is sort of an opportunity for GPA to be the kind of the NEM for everybody, right? We're going to bring in solar. We're not going to rely on whether, you know, our partners and our NEM customers, whether we're going to have 2,000 more people, 5,000 more people. Right now, we're getting 5, 3 a month. We're going to put solar in the ground. We got 200 megawatts of solar plus storage already either in play, about to be in play. Phase 4 is now another 180 megs. All NG is another 40 megs. So there's another 220 megs, and all that has batteries, right? Which allows us to shift the cheaper power, turn off the peaking units that provide that additional power, save all that more expensive fuel. And so we just keep hammering down on fuel because that's really the ultimate culprit, and we replace it with fixed costs that we pay a provider or because their costs are fixed. They build the solar farm, it costs X, and there's no fuel going up and down, and is it $40 a barrel this month, $20 a barrel next month, $80 a barrel next year? And that's really that whole mitigation of reducing our dependence on fuel, we're going to fixed costs instead of variable costs, and driving down that LEAC because solar technology and storage technology is becoming increasingly efficient, right, and increasingly cheaper. It's not there yet to let us go to 100%. That's why we're taking advantage of riding the cost curve of technology down. It would be so silly to try to buy 100% renewables with storage today when we know 5, 10, 20 years from now it's going to be even cheaper, right?
There'll be new technology.
And there'll be even newer technology. So this migration is well thought out. It started in 2008 with Speaker Ben and us saying, how do we move away from oil?
And IRP.
And we did the IRP. He set the standard, and we beat the standard. We're going to be at 50% by 2035. He worked together with us and said, can we do 25%? Right now we're looking at 50%. But even he was wise enough to realize you can't go from kindergarten to senior year in high school in 1, 2, 3 years. It's just not realistic, and plus it's super expensive. So this is a really good strategy to continue to bring down the cost of power by using less fuel. And now we've graduated now we're in high school. No solar array is going to be put on our island without battery storage, because we know battery storage will continue to improve, cheaper and longer. Because right now the headache with battery storage, remember what happened in Kauai. There it's 80% renewables, but They had a whole week of this kind of weather, they couldn't recharge the batteries,
And you may recall
and they had to
that,
go to a generator, and then that generator failed. So that, John's always made a key point. In an isolated grid, you know, as much as we'd love to say 100% renewable, you better have a backup. And in a boat, on an island, in an isolated grid, I've never heard any boat owner say, I'm only going to go with one engine.
no, they never do.
I mean, it's just not realistic. It's
But-
so risky to our ratepayers about reliability. It's not just about cost, it's also about reliability.
You may recall that last year there was that presentation of all this, so many 9-10 days of rain, right? For 1 day of storage, it costs about 7 cents a kilowatt hour. For 9 days, 9 times 7 is 63 cents. The new power plant now is about 5 cents a kilowatt hour just to be on reserve. So that's why the combination of the two gives you the best scenario. So that's I just wanted to brief, you know, then another question, and then I just wanted to brief the commission.
I
because,
just want to add one thing.
yeah, go ahead.
You know, to address Commissioner Santos's concern. The other thing about this is, as you bring on more of these renewable assets, that's what led you to your proposal that we adopted to retire 8 and 9 also. So those fixed costs will go away. That's, you know, that's the beauty of what we're doing. So,
And
so
someday,
it's a very good plan that we are implementing for the benefit of our ratepayers. And it holds out the promise that in the next 15 years, when we get to 2035, somewhere in those next 15 years, there may be some more breakthroughs in terms of energy storage, in terms of,
right.
you know,
Right.
panels, something.
And then you throttle back the new generator that's being built, burning less
Well, you get
fuel.
rid of all
right?
the other generators.
Well, first we
too.
get rid of them, but even
Yeah.
the one we have left, as renewable technology matures, just what you said, Mr. Chairman, there's going to be a point where this new base load becomes the primary backup. It's a single unit located in the most efficient place, but we'll be maximizing whatever that number is, 100%, 90%, 80%, whatever technology allows us to do affordably, right? And all of a sudden, this generator becomes the backup to a boat, the backup to an isolated grid that if a typhoon comes in and knocks out, you know, we're going to be at 400 megs of renewables in the next few years. If Typhoon Simon shows up and knocks out 40 megs of capacity, how are you, you know, even while you can replace that capacity, while you're replacing capacity, how do you keep the lights on? Well, you turn that generator back on until we have replaced it.
I remember by 2045, you would have paid for the machine.
And then we own the generator, so now you got a free
So
backup
then
generator.
your cost can go down.
Then
You just
even
own
further,
them,
and you
see?
still got the
So
generator.
by the time you get to that target, really, the reality, you have a nice, very
Yeah.
nice system.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Any other questions? Nope, okay.
No, we're setting really a good stage.
Any other business before the commission? No? Motion to adjourn?
Oh, wait,
I'm
yeah, I'm
sorry.
sorry, can you, I'm sorry,
I'm
quick, just a
sorry.
quick.
That's why I said.
Sorry, Mr., my bad. I
Okay.
should've- Yeah,
Oh, okay.
if you can just do a summary, yeah. Yep.
For base rate, for the year, we had $156 million. Last year, we had $160 million. We are down by $4 million. So percentage down is about 2.6%. For the megahertz hertz sold, we have 1.5 million. In prior year, we have 1.56. So we're off a little bit by 44,000 megahertz.
3%, yeah.
Megawatts.
Look at those fuel savings.
Yes, on the fuel, we budgeted 270 and we got actual of 176. So we had $99 million. So
Bad budgeting.
yes.
But
Yes.
actual is really good.
But compared to last year the actual was 238. So we were favorable by $62 million.
Which was passed on to ratepayers.
That's the drop.
That's the
$62
drop
million.
in the LEAC.
Yeah.
On the price of oil, yeah.
Yeah.
In the O&M, year-to-date was $69.4 million, and prior year we had $67.9, so we're unfavorable by $1 million. But compared to budget, we have about $8 million savings. So, under residential, we had 44,000 people. In commercial, we have 5,000, and government, we have 1,000. So the fluctuating third quarter and fourth quarter has to do with the prepaid. So that's how we count the prepaid. That included anybody who was not disconnected, was added in third quarter. As for the senior learn debt coverage ratio, we had 1.67. We did include the IPP, we have 1.48, which is better than what we budgeted.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Sanchez.
it's amazing that with a half a year of COVID and no tourism, we sold just about 3%, 4% less total energy, right? Our base rate was just 2%, less than what we would have normally collected. Of course, the LEAC was wonderful, 62 million less than the year before. In fact, if you recall, we held the LEAC steady for almost 25, 30 months, and then we dropped it. So the LEAC, if you look at the history, has continually been lower for almost 4 years now, and with the lowest cost now being now, right? With what's going on with the oil markets, and as the chairman's pointed out, don't look so good for the oil market in the future either. No. So we've got a good chance of holding that rate for, this is the fourth.
As we implement our plan.
Yeah, while we put on the renewables that are going to knock that thing even lower, right? Yeah. So we're really positioned well, and we're strong enough financially to handle the transition, and which is our goal, right? Is to put ourselves in a position that our ratepayers can get reliable energy at the lowest cost possible, that we migrate responsibly towards maximizing renewables, right? And we already, now the legislature has amended the Speaker Ben's bill and given us a goal for 100%. And we beat the first goal by 13 years, where by 2035, which is Speaker Ben's first bill, we will be at 50% instead of 25%. So we will double the goal of Speaker Ben. And John has just basically laid out the broad approach for us to continue to move away from burning fuel, lowering that LEAC, replacing it with fixed costs, which will still be lower, and yet providing reliable power, right? And that's what we're here for. I'm very encouraged by where we position ourselves, and the financials reveal that we're still strong. You had $14 million gain in net assets. I mean, that's sort of like your profit, right? We were able to run a profitable operation for our ratepayers, so that we have the money to deal with higher receivables when people need it, during this very difficult time, and we're still proceeding with the plan. So we've done a good job. Congratulations, John, to you and your team. We got to keep going. Our work's not done yet, but we are well on our way to changing the paradigm in energy and doing it responsibly, reliably, and affordably.
Okay. Any other things?
No,
Are we done? Okay. Sorry, I jumped the gun.
We
Commissioner
were,
Chapo.
thank you, Mr. Chair. Supreme Court, appeal.
Oh, yeah.
Remember we discussed that on the.
Graham, you need to mic. Thanks.
Yes, Commissioners, we just received finally the complaint and summons yesterday in the case from that. They did bring in the territory of Guam, so I have sent a copy to Jamie Canto, the Deputy AG, for litigation, and I'll follow up with him. So it has been assigned to Judge Iriarte now. We will ask, once all the answers have been filed, then we'll ask for a scheduling conference and then see where we go from that. There is generally, basically, it's an administrative case, so the record is basically the entire procurement record plus the proceedings that took place before the OPA over 4 days of the testimony and everything. So that will be, put before the judge, and then undoubtedly the very hearing on the merits before that, and then the judge at some point will make a decision. So, it could be 6 months to a year. I mean, it all depends on kind of where the judge is and her schedule. And unfortunately, the statute does require that any criminal cases take priority over civil cases in the proceedings.
Okay, Commissioner Sanchez?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for that summary. I wanted to move to a different but related legal.
Can I ask
Is
a
there any
question?
other? I'm sorry.
Yeah, let me ask a question off of
After
this.
that.
Yeah. No, so what was the essence of their complaint at the court?
Appeal
they
at
filed.
least.
Basically, they reiterated the complaints. They filed 3 separate appeals. I think I had provided the commission the decision from the OPA, former Chief Justice B.J. Cruz. They're reiterating basically the arguments that they made before, that somehow they were unfairly treated, that out of the 5 bidders, they were the only one that didn't understand the requirements that were in there for the battery storage and all the rest of that.
Okay.
Okay,
no, so there's nothing new.
Nothing.
It's a regurgitation. Okay, that's all I want to ask. Commissioner?
If there are no other questions on the NG.
Oh, wait.
Just one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the only question I have is what if any motions can be proffered to expedite it? Like, is there a summary motion?
Well, what we would try and do, and I've discussed
motion for
this
summary judgment?
with NG Counsel, Anita Ariola and Mars Johnson, we would try and do, once all of the parties have answered and everything, our thought is that, if there's no new evidence, it's already before, it's basically what the OPA ruled on the evidence before that is, we would try and see if we could file a motion for summary judgment.
Okay.
Based on really no undisputed facts. The only argument they could try is if they allege that the OPA made some mistake of law or something.
That's what
they
I
really
was
haven't
after.
said that, but
Yeah.
maybe they can come up with that at a hearing or something. But we're going to try and shorten the process as much as we can. In the
Okay.
hearing. They will get a hearing no matter what because they're required
Of course.
to.
Yeah.
But we're going to try and do our best to shorten the process.
Okay. Simon?
Yes,
Commissioner
Mr.
Sanchez?
Chairman, on a slightly different subject. So US EPA was involved in some litigation on the mainland involving plants in Ohio, Guam, Puerto Rico, about coming into compliance basically with the Clean Air Act. And,
Yes.
and I'm only getting this from media reports. I'm sure you may have more detail, but what I read was the court ordered EPA to make sure that these communities come into compliance. Meanwhile, we have been working with US EPA, developing the updated IRP, doing all the renewables, the new generator. Do we have any indication from US EPA whether the lawsuit they got involved with, they were sued for, and the ruling of that court will have any impact on what we have been negotiating with US EPA with the new consent decree and all of the plans that John has just briefly summarized? Do we have any information on that is
Well,
useful
basically,
to the commission?
what the complaint originally said from the diversity group and the Sierra group that they put forward is that Region 9 EPA had not required the local state EPAs, along with Guam EPA, to submit their state implementation plan. So it looks like we've, with our counsel from Pillsbury, we prepared a motion to intervene, right, just so that it doesn't go off track. But it looks like that they've agreed at this time that Guam EPA will follow the state implementation plan. In other words, all the group was asking is that, I think in Nevada and these other 4 places, the state had not filed an implementation plan to make sure that the remaining areas will come into attainment, basically, for the SO2 by a certain date, which is April 2023. So now that looks like Guam EPA is prepared to file with Region 9 state implementation plan, then Guam will be taken out of the picture. So we're going to wait and see if that happens, then whether we need to intervene in the.
So it doesn't change any of the plans we've been working on? The
It
new
shouldn't
new
change
generator
plans.
moves
That's what-
forward?
that's
The
what we're trying to-
renewables move forward?
Right, that
Okay.
we've negotiated the consent decree already based on what we, need to
Our
do
plan.
to keep on track.
So, and the consent decree is, from your review, is consistent with the goal of actually the complaint?
Right.
And other than some, I guess, Guam EPA will basically file the equivalent of our consent decree with US EPA in terms of actions to be taken, timelines to be met, all of which will bring us into compliance with attainment and full compliance with the Clean Air Act. And then we will continue to go past that as we add more renewables.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's just one scenario that we're working out right now with US EPA, which is the, remember the retirement of 8 and 9 came in
correct.
scenario. So that may, instead of burning ultra low sulfur diesel, we may be going to RFO lower sulfur, RFO.
Is that cheaper
Uh,
or more expensive?
It's cheaper than going ultra low sulfur diesel.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Why would they let us get away with a cheaper RFO?
No,
versus-
we're still to be able to comply with that April 20.
Right, with the
Oh,
SL2 requirements.
for the timeline,
Yeah.
But
Otherwise, we
ultimately,
didn't have to
yeah.
make a change, but
Right, right.
because of that,
yeah.
and for that 1 year period, so, and again, we can have 4 or 5 different fields, right? So we're still negotiating that, we're trying to figure that out.
But like you said, it's just for a short
Yeah.
period of time, right? And then when the new generator comes online, 8 and 9, we will just
Yeah.
retire completely.
If we can agree with EPA, no?
Okay.
Then the position of PUC is then, well, we don't want to decide until EPA
Decides.
So I will assume that that means if EPA says so-and-so with me, with us, then,
Can you see a reason why EPA would want us to keep 8 and 9 on?
well, just to make sure we comply with the sulfur dioxide limitation.
While we build the new generator.
Yeah.
But once
Well, the new generator will take care of it.
right, then you don't
Yeah.
need 8 and 9,
Yeah.
right?
While we're building the new
Okay,
generator.
so that's an interim, that's good. So it's
Yeah.
just an interim adjustment we would make
Yeah.
on a fuel
Just
choice.
to give you an idea right now,
Yeah.
so that when I come back, in case that's the way it goes, you know, you.
But
you
once the
can-
new gen is up, then we shut down,
Yeah.
we turn off 8 and 9, like we're turning
And then
everything
when-
else but the peakers.
Yeah, and then eventually, if you did go natural gas, is even
You
better.
can really
Yeah.
turn them.
But the key here is, no matter which way we go, we have to have ultra low sulfur diesel, because that's a certainty, whether storm or anything
Right,
you're gonna
right,
have, right? That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Anything else, commissioners? No, now motion to adjourn.
Thank you, everybody.
Commissioners,
Thank
thank you, good night.